Several months ago, I started beating the drum with a proclamation that Tesla should spin off the supercharger business. It was, I claimed at the time, a great business and it had huge profit potential, but I thought it would just be a rounding error with regard to the rest of the Tesla businesses, or at least the main Tesla businesses. Well, Larry Goldberg came on my channel and we had a great time and got huge response because Larry was wanting to shoot down my theory and say, well, no, maybe it's going to be way more than a rounding error. Maybe we should hang on to it after all. Anyway, we took a look at some of the information that Larry provided that day, and it made a lot of sense, and there was a real potential for some great profits. Well, a bunch has changed in that 2 weeks. Holy mackerel. Since then, Elon Musk came onto Twitter and he revoiced his earlier stated opinion that the profit margins at these on the energy side, the energy service side, at these charging stations would only be about 30% on the gross margins, and looking for just a goal of doing 10% after all expenses and overhead. So that changed compared to what Larry was thinking, because the profits looked like they might be 50%. Based on the analysis that he had done. Now, we've seen that story play out before on the energy storage business. So again, is maybe Elon is sandbagging just a little bit on some of these potential profits. Maybe that's really the goal, and maybe that's what it'll be. So that was number one thing that happened. The other thing is that Ford and General Motors decided to start using the Tesla Superchargers for the go-to locations for their clients, and that's going to change a lot. That's going to have a major impact, of course, on Tesla Supercharger stations, and we might be charging more there, or there might be a monthly charge. So that's all to be determined. But we're just going to take a look. Well, I'll explain it in just a second. And this is Randy Kirk. If you like this kind of content, if it's helpful and useful, please hit the like button. You might want to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, but the notify button. This was originally going to be a series of 5, I think a total of 5 videos where I was going to take a look at the various divisions, figure out the future prospects in terms of unit sales, in terms of the revenue potential for each division, and then the profits per division, what the overheads might be, et cetera, spreading them out until 2030 in most cases, and then pull it all together and put together one big spreadsheet that would show you where things are going to end up for the entire company over the next several years. Now, again, these are all projections. They're, pull this information right out of the air, but they're based on either statements by Elon Musk, information that we already have in terms of various ramps, and sometimes, pure speculation on my part, but hopefully reasoned expectations. And then, of course, I'd love to have your comments and thoughts when you think I'm completely wrong, completely over the top, or maybe sometimes you might even think I'm too conservative. I know that's rare. Anyway, all of these charts, all of these assessments, all of these spreadsheets are on Google Docs, Google Sheets. And each time I finish one, I throw it up onto my Patreon. So if you'd like to see these charts and the things that I'm working on, you need to join Patreon. It's $5 a month. And right now you get 7 days free trial for 7 days. If you'd like to just give it a shot, the information is down below. Now, since that time though, I have spread it out. It's going to be more than 5. It might end up being 7 or 8 when I'm completely done here. We'll see, but I'm taking them piece by piece. And the very last one will be where I take it and put it all together to give the total for the company, and also my projections in terms of what the stock price will be as a result of adding all that up together, dividing by 3.4 billion shares, and multiplying times 30 or 40 or 50 PE, whatever. All right. So that's my plan. And maybe you want to hit notify so that you're notified about these various videos coming out. And also join Patreon if you want to see the spreadsheets take more time with them as opposed to what is going to happen on the video. All right, let's start with these updates again. Elon said that the goal for the supercharger business is 30% gross profit from energy sales and 10% overall profits from overhead after taking into consideration overhead related to the business. So while I think these are small and low, I don't think these are right. There's also the other potential income. They have additional ways to make money, like they could have other service at the locations. They've looked at restaurants. They've looked at of other kinds of food services. They've looked at swimming pools. There could be card shops. There could be gift shops. Who knows what might come out of this? But you've got the location. You might be able to make more money. You can also set up advertising. You can have billboards or advertise like gas stations do sometimes. They have some kind of a TV ad running right at the pump. All kinds of ways that you could include advertising in these locations. And then you have the arbitrage, because most of these stations are getting now, or will get in the future, a mega charger, and some of them will have solar as well. So you'll be producing solar, creating, using the mega chargers in order to mega chargers in order to arbitrage the use of the energy. And then you can also arbitrage with the local grid, because you're going to have way more capability from that mega charger than just having the mega pack than just having the chargers. So anyway, that's all kinds of additional income that comes. So I think the 10% number is really low, but that's the number we're going to use for this analysis. Okay, then we had the further news, of course, that General Motors and Ford are going to revise their equipment on the car so that their cars can accept the NACS approach, the NACS standard. Tesla has their standard. Then a couple of three of the different folks who are building these pumps, these posts, charging posts across the country under other brands, they have also said, okay, we're going to switch to NACS as well. I think it's just a matter of days or weeks before you'll see all the other makes. You'll see the Kia, Hyundai Kia, you'll see Mercedes. All the other folks are going to have to jump on board with this NACS standard, because why? Oh, because it's so much better than the other standard, and it's so much easier if you have just one standard to deal with. Anyway, that information, of course, is why we now have this situation where Tesla is going to generate much more probably business from these non-Tesla vehicles coming to their stations than was originally thought. I am going to project that they're going to get 20% of that business. As you'll see, even getting 20% of it makes a massive change in the total number of pumps or posts and or stations that Tesla is going to need in order to do this business. But of course, it's also going to increase the overall business. So that means they're going to have to make a lot more equipment. They're going to have to hire more people to go out and find locations, and then more people to do the construction of the locations. I mean, it's already a pretty good ramp, and now they're going to have an even bigger ramp. I don't have any problem seeing them ramping that way in order to take advantage of this opportunity. In fact, I have a bigger problem figuring out how the other 80% of the necessary posts are going to be created by all of the other makers and all of the other folks that are setting up these locations. So the 20% that Tesla might be not required to do, but feel like they should do, that's going to be the easy part. Well, okay. So in order to keep up with the demand from Tesla vehicles alone, Tesla will have to add many, many more supercharger posts each year. He said that his goal right now was to make about another 60,000 posts in 2024, and that they would be at a total of 100,000 by the end of 2024. And that's just to keep up with Tesla vehicles. But now we have to take into consideration adding more vehicles. So it's going to be necessary to have a lot more posts. So when will Elon set up more manufacturing and start planning in terms of seeking and finding more locations and getting the construction done? So that is all of the assumptions going in. We'll go over the assumptions again in a second before we start looking at the spreadsheet, but let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so let's quickly go over the assumptions again. Assumption number one, Tesla will grow their auto sales at about 50% per year until 2028, and then slow down some, and then reach their total of 20 million vehicles per year in 2030. All of the other BEV companies combined will grow their sales from now about 50% a year also until 2028 again, when that growth will also slow rapidly to where we will end up with somewhere around 80 million cars a year in 2030 between Tesla and all of the other companies combined. One of these posts, one of these charging posts, can service about 120 cars. You'll see how I got that in a second. That was based on what Tesla has been building, based on their total cars on the road, and we'll look at that in a second. This could change, however, as charging speeds increase. So we might be able to do more than 120 cars per post in the future. The cost per kilowatt hour should remain constant at about 36 cents. Actually, I expect this number to decrease dramatically because of the solar installations, because of the mega packs being installed, and also because of the arbitrage. And then also because I think overall electric prices are going to be coming down pretty substantially over the next several years, to the point where, as Tony Seba says, energy will be too cheap to meter. So when that happens, yes, that will reduce revenues, but it may not reduce total profits per post, as the costs will have also dropped a lot. And so Tesla could begin to, let's say the goal might be to get so many dollars of net revenue per post instead. And that might be about the same as this analysis that we're doing here. The final thing is Tesla will capture about 20% of the non-Tesla charging business. All right, so now we want to look at the first part of the analysis. So right here, we're showing the total number. These first numbers here are Tesla cars sold, and then total on the road, and then total posts, and then how many cars are being handled by each post. So you can see in 2019, there was only 367,000 cars sold. That gave Tesla a total of 875,000 cars on the road. There was 14,000 posts at that point, which meant that each post was taking care of 62.5 cars. That increased in 2020 to where we had 1,375,000 cars on the road, and you can see 19,000 posts. Now they were able to handle 72 cars per post. You can watch this continue on here until we get up to 2023, where we're estimating that there will be, at the end of 2023, 5.575 million cars on the road, Tesla cars, just Tesla. There will be 50,000 posts in operation, and that means they'll be handling about 111 cars each post. I'm going to suggest that is going to go up a little more short in the next year, but then I'm going to suggest it'll stay at around 120 all the way to 2030. That's my estimate. Okay. I don't know if I'm right or wrong. Maybe it'll go to 240. This is, you can see it went from 62 to 120, but maybe it'll continue to climb. Again, charging speeds coming down, other things, other methods being used in order to do some things better. I don't know, but for now, I'm going to go with 120 cars per post being managed. All right. Then BEV sales. This would be the non-Tesla sales. So we've got 12 million in 2023. And so we're going to start and assume 12 million on the road, because Tesla's not going to play catch up on all the ones that are on the road now. Do you understand that? So I'm not going to include all the BEVs cars that are out, BEV non-Tesla cars. I'm not going to include the ones that are on the road in 2022 and half of 2023, because there's already posts for those. So we don't need to figure those cars into this analysis. So I'm going to start with the 12 million that will be made this year and say that there's 12 million on the road. Then next year, there will be another 20 million added to that. So we'll have 32, and then 30 million gets it to 62 million, et cetera, et cetera. As a result of some magic, I made a few changes while you weren't watching. And so let's come now and take a look. So 20% of the shares of the share of the market would mean that Tesla needs to service 6.4 million cars in 2024, 12.4 in 2025, et cetera, up to 72 million cars on the road. So this is in addition to their cars on the road at about 80 million and 72 million from the other BEVs. So now that we know how many cars are on the road, how many non-Tesla BEVs are on the road that Tesla will be servicing, you can divide that number, divide the 6.4 million by 120 cars, 120 cars that each pump can serve. And now you get that you're going to need another 53,000 plus pumps in 2024 just to handle these additional cars. Then 100,000 more pumps, 176. And then in fact, in 2030, you're going to need 600,000, almost as many pumps for these additional cars as you need for the Tesla cars in 2030. All right, that gets us the base numbers of how many pumps, technically, theoretically, based on these assumptions, Tesla will have each year going into the future. Now that you know the total number of pumps that are necessary, you can put those into column A. You can see this along 2023, 2024. So in 2030, 1.276 million pumps in operation. We know from the work that Larry Goldberg did that these will be using 73,000 kilowatt hours per year per post. So we got that number. We can throw that in. We know that that becomes X number of gigawatt hours per year, right over there with 3,650 gigawatts per year. We know the revenue will be $1,314 per as a result of those at 36 cents. That was just a multiplying 36 cents. And then the net profit will be 10% of that, according to Elon. So that allows us to see that at the end of 2023, we can pretty well calculate that Tesla will make $131,000, according to, if they make the goal, they will make $131,000 in profit in 2023 from supercharger stations. In 2024, we start to assume that we build a lot more posts. We install a lot more posts because of the both additional cars from Tesla as well as the cars that are non-Tesla. And so now we get to a much larger number where we have $337 million in profit. That becomes $569 the following year. And then it finally tops out in 2030 at $3,355 million. Now, let's go back to my original that's a lot of money. That's a really good company. You'd like to invest in that company, wouldn't you? So would I. I like to invest in that company. That company's got good growth and it's got really good profits. And besides that, there's more profits than that from the things that we talked about earlier. So why wouldn't, but 3.35 billion, $3.3 billion in profit in 2030, that, my friends, is a rounding error. Now, if Elon is kidding us and he's really going to make 30% net profit so that becomes 10 billion, it's a bigger number and it's a useful number. And it might be 15 by the time you add in some more potential revenue and profits, but it's still a rounding error in the Tesla world. So I'm saying, not saying this year, maybe not even next year, but sometime in the not too distant future, I think this company should be spun off as a separate entity so that the Tesla shareholders can get the bonanza of having this valued on its own merits as opposed to part of the overall bigger picture. All right, so hopefully this is useful. I mean, it's still good numbers. We're going to plug those numbers into our other numbers with regard to Tesla's future when I finish this entire exercise here in a few days. But hopefully this was useful. And if it is, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and then notify if you'd like to see the rest of these as I put them together. And then, of course, the Patreon, if you'd like to see these, if you'd like to go up and reference these, make copies of them, whatever you want to do, join Patreon. There's a 7-day free trial right now, and it's only $5 a month anyway. Anyway, that's it. It's been great talking to you.
Click the link below to get your paperback, Kindle, or audiobook now.